everyone, and welcome back to my beginner jazz theory series. Today we'll be looking at the different types of chords that come from the diatonic sevenths of the C major scale and the C minor melodic, and we'll be talking about the jazz minor melodic today, but we'll get to that. So let's get started. So as you guys can see, we already have our C major scale lined up below, and then I've added some thirds just above each note so that we can see our diatonic 7 chords. We've got our 1 major 7, our 2 minor 7, our 3 minor 7, 4 major 7, 5 7, 6 minor 7, and lastly we've got our 7 minor 7 flat 5. So let's take a look at our first chord. It looks like our 1 major 7, so we know that's our home key and this is where we want to always come back to, so we're gonna label it as the tonic. Awesome. So next up we've got our D minor 7, and if you guys have seen my 2-5-1 video, we already know that this is our predominant, especially because it comes before our dominant chord. Awesome. Our E minor 7 looks like a predominant, but it actually is not. It's a diatonic sub, and the reason why is the E minor 7 can either replace the 1 chord or the 5 chord, so it's kind of a special chord on its own, but we give it the label of diatonic sub because it can replace the 1. Our next chord is our F major 7 chord, and this is our 4 major 7, and this is our predominant chord because it comes right before our dominant chord. Especially if you guys have studied classical history or classical music, you guys will know that the 4 chord is always a predominant leading into a dominant chord. So we've got our dominant chord right here. There's nothing else really interesting going on. We already know that it's the dominant chord and it's the chord that will bring us back to 1. Alright, so now we've got 2 terms left and 2 more chords, so let's take a look. We've got A minor 7, that is our 6 minor 7, and if you guys have heard of deceptive cadences, you'll know that the A minor 7 can actually replace the 1 chord. Even though our ears don't feel like we're at home, it feels resolved somewhat, so we're going to call this the diatonic sub. And lastly, we've got our B minor 7 flat 5 chord here, and I've listed it under dominant. If you guys have questions why it's a dominant chord, even though it's a half diminished chord, you guys can feel free to email me or write down in the comments below what you think. Alright, so now that we're done with our diatonic 7 chords in the C major scale, we're going to take a look at our diatonic 7 chords with the C minor melodic. Of course, we're using the jazz minor melodic instead of the classical one. In the classical minor melodic, you guys will notice that the 6 and 7 are raised on our way up the scale, and they are lowered to A flat and B flat on the way down the scale. So in our jazz minor melodic, we're just going to keep them raised, but keep the third flattened. So let's take a look at our first chord. We've got our C minor major 7. And as you guys can see, we've got our C minor triad down below with a major 7 on top. And that's why we call it the C minor major 7. Next up, we have our D minor 7, and that's just a regular diatonic 7 chord. We've seen this before, especially in the C major scale. We've got our E flat 7 sharp 5. This is an excellent chord if you guys are looking for a spacey, drifty sound. And this is an awesome chord, so feel free to play it on the piano and hear how it sounds. Our next chord is our F7, and this is our 4 dominant. And you guys can hear this chord often played in the blues and a lot of different jazz standards. And this is where it actually comes from, the C minor melodic diatonic 7. Alright, so now we've got our G7, this is just our regular dominant. Next up we have our A minor 7 flat 5, and this is our half diminished 6. This is really impressive. Actually, I forgot to put a flat 5. Sorry about that. Again, I don't have any flats. I'm just gonna leave a B there, but you guys know what I mean. So I got our A minor 7 flat 5, and that is our 6 minor 7 flat 5 in our C minor melodic scale of diatonic 7. And lastly, we've got our B minor 7 flat 5, and this actually comes from our major diatonic 7 scale. Awesome, so that's all for today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below and like and subscribe for more videos. See you guys next time.